I think I was too laid back tonight, and I can't do that. And defensively, I got to be better.
He was more energized than a 23-year-old Zion Williamson. It mattered more to him. Puts on a show. Don't take the greatness for granted.
Things are not looking good for Zion Williamson. After finally getting healthy enough to return to the basketball court, you would think that the Pelicans would be good to go for this season. But if the Pelicans lost to the Los Angeles Lakers on national TV was any indication, this team has significantly more problems. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. I haven't proved myself to you at this point, then check this out. On Thursday Night Football, these are all the people that made money by following my prize picks for free on Instagram. I give out my picks for free each and every night, and if you end up tailing me and hit green, I shout you out like this. Right now, when you use my promo code microphone, you could double your deposit up until $100 on prize picks. And thank you, prize picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The New Orleans Pelicans came up with one hell of an achievement when they were able to make it to the Western Conference in-season tournament finals? Is that what we're calling it? Regardless, it is one heck of an achievement to make it that far, especially considering how easy it is to get eliminated. It's no small achievement to make it to the point that the Pelicans did. Given how intense that these basketball games are, the in-season tournament has been a huge success in my opinion. Early season basketball is typically the most boring basketball we get, and we start to see it ramp up around mid-February once the trade deadline has passed. That's what it seems like each and every team is giving a playoff effort if there is a chance for them to make it into the playoffs. So the fact that we are getting competitive games really is able to tell us what teams are capable of making it far in the NBA playoffs and what teams have no chance at all whatsoever. And in the case of the New Orleans Pelicans, the fact that they made it that far was incredible, but it seems like a weakness that has plagued Zion Williamson for his entire career once again has reappeared. And two NBA legends told us immediately after the game what those weaknesses were and how it's still something that should have been solved by now. Following the Pelicans' embarrassing loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, Shaquille O'Neal said this.
Does not run hard. It's not a diss. It's going to be a lesson from one great big man to another guy that does not run hard. I had the same problem my first, second year. I thought I was running hard. Charles talked about this all the time. My talent gonna get me 20. But when I start going to 20, 30, and 40, it's because I start doing certain things.
And even Charles Barkley, who was notorious for being fat and lazy in the earlier part of his career, critiqued Zion Williamson in the same way. But there is one major difference between a rookie year Chuck and a current Zion Williamson.
The thing that disturbs me is he's not a young kid. When Moses told me I was fat and lazy, I was a rookie. He's been in the league long enough. He's got two guys in his team that are better players than him, and they shouldn't be. He was the #1 pick in the draft. He should be a better player than Ingram. We like Ingram, obviously. We love CJ. He should be the best player, and he's not even close.
And the crazy thing is, Charles Barkley is right. Zion Williamson was supposed to be the next coming of LeBron James. And if you look at his highlights from Duke University, he seemed like he was at least going to be 50% at minimum the type of dominant player that LeBron James was. And there are moments where he does show off that dominance, but it's not consistent. And the crazy thing is, it's almost as if the New Orleans Pelicans knew all of this. If you look at Zion Williamson's game versus the Los Angeles Lakers, where they lost 89 to 133, he had 13 points off of 6 of 8 shooting, 3 assists, and 2 total rebounds. He played in 26 minutes and he was a -33 net rating. And here's the thing, it's not the first time that Zion Williamson played like this. In his game against Sacramento, it was a +4 net rating, 10 points, 4 turnovers, 5 of 8 shooting. Against the lowly Chicago Bulls, who are on the cusp of a rebuild, and I'm sure within a week from now, we're going to see a trade in regards to the Chicago Bulls, considering that December 15th is when you're allowed to officially trade players. Zion Williamson once again was a -12 net rating, with 5 turnovers, 27 points, 5 total rebounds, and shot 10 of 15 from the field, which is, don't get me wrong, significantly better. This is far from the dominant Zion Williamson we were supposed to see. The New New Orleans Pelicans are currently an 8th seed. They started out the season 4-6 because of injuries, and then they were able to turn that around and win 5 of 6 games. 3 of those wins came in the in-season tournament, which are much more intense games than the average game. They beat teams like the Sacramento Kings as well, but once again, Zion Williamson wasn't that involved. And it seems like this was something that the New Orleans Pelicans saw coming. Following the loss to the Lakers, Zion Williamson said himself that,
Gotta be better. Gotta be more aggressive, finding my shot. Gotta do more things, get my team going. I think I was too laid back tonight, and I can't do that. And defensively, I gotta be better.
But if you just watch that game versus the Los Angeles Lakers, Zion Williamson looked gassed. And Shaq is right. Currently, Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum are playing significantly better than them. It's almost as if the New Orleans Pelicans knew that this would happen. If you guys remember, going all the way back to the summer, Zion Williamson had his most controversial summer to date, when the New Orleans Pelicans even stated that they wanted to trade up for the number 2 or number 3 pick and select Scoot Henderson.
The Pelicans are expected to aggressively pursue a top pick, potentially 2 or 3, in this upcoming NBA draft with their eyes set on Scoot Henderson.
And bear in mind, it wasn't just Shams that stated this. Mark Stein even echoed the statement, saying that a well-placed source thinks that the Pelicans would indeed consider dealing Zion to move into the top 3 and draft Scoot Henderson. There were many teams that called the New Orleans Pelicans in regards to a Zion Williamson trade. There were rumors suggesting that the New Orleans Pelicans were going to trade Zion Williamson for the number 2 overall pick, and if he went to Charlotte, maybe he would be a little bit more motivated because he gets to play within 45 minutes to his home, which is in North Carolina. Maybe family and friends would inspire Zion. He might be more inspired because he gets to be around his family. There were even some reports that the Pelicans are legitimately considering the possibility of dealing Zion to Charlotte for the number 2 pick, but it didn't mean that they would 100% do it. But they were considering the prospect of trying to assemble a deal for Charlotte's number 2 pick that would feature Zion Williamson. And at the end of the day, they didn't do it. And to be honest, so far, it seems like they made the right choice. I know it's very young in Scoot Henderson's career, but putting a player like Scoot Henderson in a win-now environment like New Orleans clearly wouldn't work out if he's already struggling to develop with the Portland Trailblazers. Not saying that he won't be able to. We made a whole video on that separate topic a few days ago, but in hindsight, it looks like the Pelicans made the right move. But it does indicate that the Pelicans would at least entertain the prospect of moving on from Zion Williamson. And could you really blame them? From the moment Zion was drafted, there are questions about his weight. There's questions about him being healthy enough to play in games. There are reports that his family didn't want Zion in New Orleans. When the New Orleans Pelicans made a win-now move by trading for CJ McCollum, Zion Williamson didn't even call McCollum to welcome him to the team. The New Orleans Pelicans are your team. How do you not do that? His ex-teammate JJ Redick even called him out.
Actually, this is a little bit insane to me. There's a general sort of decorum of behavior that you should apply as a teammate. Look, I wasn't the best player on any team I was on, but if there was a buyout possibility, if there was a trade possibility, I would always reach out to team. I called Ersan Ilyasova, I called Marco, I called Wes Matthews trying to get him to come to Philly. Like, this just shows a complete lack of investment in your team, in the organization, in the city. I get that he's hurt and away from the team, but you just traded for one of the 50 best players in the league, a guy that's supposed to be paired with you. Reach out and say hello. This is a pattern of behavior with Zion that we are seeing again and again. And look, I was his teammate. I can describe him as a detached teammate. That is an accurate statement. This is basic level of humanity being a teammate. Send a text to a guy when he gets traded to your team. That is just normal behavior. That's the bar minimum that you have to do. And the Pelicans yesterday sent out an email for season tickets for next year. Guess who wasn't in the email? Whose name was not in the email? Zion's. Like, what the heck is going on in New Orleans, Stephen A?
Who was the most energized player on that floor? The oldest player on that floor. He was more energized than a 23-year-old Zion Williamson. It mattered more to him. Puts on a show. Don't take the greatness for granted.
And now, once again, there is yet another report on Zion Williamson ignoring the New Orleans Pelicans' calls for improved diet and conditioning. According to Christian Clark, the Pelicans have repeatedly stressed to Williamson that his diet and conditioning need to improve, but the veteran forward doesn't listen, according to Christian Clark. Currently, the New Orleans Pelicans are 8th in the West. It's not like they're playing horribly so far, but they're not off to nearly as good of a start as they were last year when Zion Williamson was fully healthy. As a matter of fact, they looked a little bit more like the Minnesota Timberwolves or the OKC Thunder last year in their positioning than they do in their current positioning. And then when you consider the fact how deep the Western Conference is, above the Pelicans is the Phoenix Suns, Sacramento Kings, Dallas Mavericks, Los Angeles Lakers, Denver Nuggets, and the aforementioned Thunder and Minnesota Timberwolves. When you look at the teams below them, it's all teams that are more than capable of making up the deficit and forcing the Pelicans to be a play-in team. You have the Los Angeles Clippers, who have won their last 2 games, the Houston Rockets, who have only lost 1 game at home and just need to figure out how to win on the road, the Golden State Warriors, who have been dealing with injuries to start out the season, and any of those teams could eventually leapfrog the New Orleans Pelicans and force them to miss the play-in and the playoffs this year. And I'm not saying this is something that's happening now. I'm not saying that it's a foregone conclusion. All I'm saying is in the offseason, the Pelicans considered dealing Zion Williamson. And at a specific point, this is Zion Williamson's 5th season in the NBA. You'd have to imagine that at this point, the Pelicans are just exhausted about the whole situation. Zion Williamson still has a tremendous amount of value in the NBA, so I don't think the idea of moving on from him is that far-fetched if the right deal comes along. Let me know in the comment section down below, what should the New Orleans Pelicans do? Do you still try to salvage what you have of Zion Williamson? He's only played in 133 games. When he does play, he's had moments of brilliance. It's just this last stretch of games that really makes me pessimistic about his future. At this point, he's in his 5th NBA season. If you're a Pelicans fan, let me know what you would do in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.